Let's get ready to rumble! I won the greatest Republican victory in the history of the state of Florida. I'm looking forward to Iowa and New Hampshire. The voters are going to be able to speak, and we're going to earn this nomination. And here's what we need. I am sick of Republicans who are not willing to stand up and fight back against what the left is doing to this country. You've got to be willing to stand strong, and you've got to be willing to beat these people. I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue. We beat the teachers' unions when we did school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat George Soros when we removed 2 of his radical district attorneys. We beat the Democrats on election integrity. I have delivered results. That's what we need for this country. And you have other candidates up here like Nikki Haley. She caves anytime the left comes after her, anytime the media comes after her. I did a bill in Florida to stop the gender mutilation of minors. It's child abuse and it's wrong. She opposes that bill. She thinks it's fine and the law shouldn't get involved with it. If you're not willing to stand up for the kids, if you're not willing to stand up and say that it is wrong to mutilate these kids, then you're not going to fight for the people back home. I will fight for you and I will win for you.
She said that. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, so since I screwed up a minute ago, we're live. It's KLRN Radio Debate Night, and so far we have Andrew and Stacey. I did that whole opening while muted. That was fun.
You're reportedly worth $8 million, thanks to lucrative corporate speeches and board memberships like you had with Boeing. Weeks ago, you met with Wall Street heavyweights, including leaders from J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock. Several other billionaire investors are reportedly ready to endorse you, or recently have, all of which comes with expectations. Aren't you too tight with the banks and the billionaires to win over the GOP's working class base, which mostly wants to break the system, not elect someone beholden to it?
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. You know, first I'll tell you, just to respond to Ron, he continues to lie about my record. I actually said his Don't Say Gay bill didn't go far enough because it only talked about gender until the 3rd grade. And I said it shouldn't be done at all, that's for parents to talk about. It shouldn't be talked about with schools. In reference to donors coming on board, look, we will take support from anybody we can take support from, but I have been a conservative fighter all my life. I was a Tea Party candidate when I became governor. We opposed every single corporate bailout we possibly could. We passed tort reform. We passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country. We passed pro-life bills. We moved in unemployment from 11% to 3%. We took on the unions, and we took on Obama when it came to the unions, the Syrian refugees, and everything in between. And so I've had a fight. And so as much as Ron says that, that's not true. But when it comes to these corporate people that want to suddenly support us, we'll take it. But I don't ask them what their policies are. They ask me what my policies are. And I tell them what it is. Sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I am on China. Some don't like the fact that I've signed pro-life bills. Some don't like the fact that I may oppose corporate bailouts. That doesn't matter. That's who I am. And that's why the most conservative grassroots group in the country, Americans for Prosperity, endorsed me last week.
They're not conservative, they're libertarian.
Because she didn't respond to the criticism. It wasn't about the Parents' Rights and Education bill. It was about prohibiting sex change operations on minors. They do puberty blockers. These are irreversible. Talk to Chloe Cole. She went through this. Now she's an adult. She's warning against it. She may never be able to have kids again. That is what Nikki Haley opposed. She said the law shouldn't get involved in that. And I just ask you, if you're somebody that's going to be the president of the United States and you can't stand up against child abuse, how are you going to be able to stand up for anything? That is the truth. We have it on video.
I said that if you have to be 18 to get a tattoo, you should have to be 18 to have anything done to change your gender.
You said the law should stay out of it.
We're gonna get to this in more detail later. Let's finish with electability, but trust me, we're coming back to this issue. Mr. Ramaswamy, For months, you campaigned as a unifier. Then you stood up at the first debate and attacked all of your competitors as bought and paid for. The second debate, you changed your tune, saying, these are good people on this stage, admitting you can come across as a bit of a know-it-all and rejecting the practice of personal insults. By debate number 3, you called Nikki Haley corrupt, accused Ron DeSantis of wearing high heels, and told Ambassador Haley she should keep a closer eye on her daughter. Can you see how this has led some to conclude you are not, in fact, a unifier, and to question your authenticity?
Megyn, I think there's a time and place for everything. We need somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time, and I'll say that jokingly. Ron DeSantis is a good person, too. I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is, and now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, not the Democratic establishment. Now you have Reid Hoffman, the person who's effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discovered this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world.
He's making a point about who her funders are, that they're actually working against Republicans. Like the fact that Reid Hoffman is giving her money is frightening.
Needs to be doxxed
well,
by having their ID,
but
their
that was not,
government-issued ID,
he's supposed to say,
to what they say
at this
on the
point,
internet.
why
so I think that this is
him?
far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside with fresh legs, from the next generation to unite this country. Not the broken politicians who are puppets of the puppet masters, but the actual people in this country. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. I think it's going to take somebody whose best days in life are still ahead to see a country whose best days are ahead of itself. And I think I can reach that next generation better than anybody else in this race.
Thank you. Response.
Megyn. First of all, we weren't bankrupt when I left the UN. We're people of service. My husband is in the military, and I served our country as UN ambassador and governor. It may be bankrupt to him, but it certainly wasn't bankrupt to us. Secondly, I did serve on the board of Boeing. I did a lot of work with Boeing when I was governor. They were a great partner to me. I served for 10 months. And then when they decided after COVID that they wanted to go for a corporate bailout, I've never supported corporate bailout, so I respectfully stepped back and got off the board. I love Boeing. They build good commercial airplanes. They build airplanes for our Air Force. I am proud of them. They employ a lot of people in South Carolina. But that's why I left the Boeing board. There's nothing to what he's saying. And in terms of these donors that are supporting me, they're just jealous. They wish that they were supporting them. But I'm not going to sit there and deny them.
I've got the wrong screen up on my computer there, Rick.
And Vivek, he wrote a book talking about ESG and these woke
I don't know where
corporations
you're
and
streaming
BlackRock.
from, but I'm on
The idea that I
Rumble,
want
and
to do
just
that
I'm
in
ahead
Florida,
of this
they
right
were
now.
managing our
Yeah, I
part
pulled
of
it
our
from
pension,
YouTube TV.
and then when they did the ESG,
Oh,
I took
okay.
$2 billion away from BlackRock. We took action. This ESG, they call it environment, social governance, and
Dude,
again,
why
Nikki
was
is
the
meeting with all
cameraman
these
just
people.
shaking their head no?
They want to use economic power to impose a left-wing agenda on this country. They want basically to change society without having to
You
go
gotta go
through
to
the
someplace
constitutional
else, and-
process. We've kneecapped it in the state of Florida. The next president of the United States needs to be able to go to that office on day one and end ESG. And the fact of the matter is, we know from her history, Nikki will cave to those big donors when it counts. And that is not acceptable.
I did write that book. Well, I did write that book, Ron, and the irony is Nikki Haley was heaping praise on me when I wrote that book, but now I worry I was warning about the woke industrial complex in this country as a warning. Apparently, she read it as a how-to manual, just like she reads George Orwell's books as well. And so I think that that's actually far more dangerous than – this is really important for people to understand. We're marching towards fascism under Biden. Jack Smith has subpoenaed every last retweet that someone has issued from Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom. That is fascism. And she should come nowhere near the levers of power, let alone the White House.
I've got to get to Governor Christie.
Oh, he's right there.
But can I just say,
can you speak?
I really appreciate
how
that.
How you doing, sir?
Good to see you.
Can you please speak to the requirement that you said that every anonymous internet user needs to out themselves? They're both hitting you on it.
I would be happy to, and I love all the attention, fellas. Thank you for that. I'll say this. What I said was that social media companies need to show us their algorithms. I also said there are millions of bots on social media right now. They're foreign, they're Chinese, they're Iranian. I will always fight for freedom of speech for Americans. We do not need freedom of speech for Russians and Iranians and Hamas. We need social media companies to go and fight back on all of these bots that are happening. That's what I said. As a mom, do I think that social media would be more civil if we went and had people's names next to that? Yes, I do think that, because I think we've got too much cyberbullying. I think we've got child pornography and all of those things. But having said that, I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
That's false.
She said, I want your name.
She
as President of the
absolutely said
United
it.
States, her first day in office, she said, one of the first things I'm going to do,
I said
all
we were going to
social
get
media
the
is, I
millions
want
of
your
bots.
name.
She wants
That's what she
government
said.
ID to dox every American.
That's what she said. You can roll the tape. She said, I want your name. And that was going to be one of the first things she did in office. And then she got real serious blowback, and understandably so, because it'd be a massive expansion of government. We have anonymous speech. The Federalist Papers were written with anonymous writers. Jay, Madison, and Hamilton, they went under Publius. It's something that's important, and especially given how conservatives have been attacked and they've lost jobs and they've been canceled. You know the regime would use that to weaponize that against our own people.
Okay,
it was a bad idea, and she should own up to it.
Come on now, what are you doing here?
15 seconds, and then there is the governor, former governor of New Jersey.
This cracks me up because
time.
Ron is so hypocritical, because he actually went and tried to push a law that would stop anonymous people from talking to the press, and went so far to say bloggers should have to register with the state if they're going to write about elected officials. It was in the check your newspaper. It was absolutely there. I have never said government should
trample on your constitutional rights.
You can come back to it later.
This is more dangerous than the Democrats.
So what you're saying is somebody in his legislature tried to pass something, and you're blaming him.
I'm usually not somebody who gets missed, but okay, let's go.
What's happening? Okay, I got you. Listen, you endorsed Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. You gave him an A for his first term. Since then, however, you've turned on him, calling him a liar, a loser, a con man, and someone who cannot win.
Got mad the
you even said that you got into this race just to stop President Trump. His approval rating with Republicans is currently at 81%. Yours is at 25%. Your best state is New Hampshire, and even there, 2/3 of GOP voters say they would be angry and disappointed if you won.
Excuse me.
Respectfully, Governor, you have not stopped Mr. Trump, and voters may wonder how you could possibly become the nominee of a party that does not appear to like you very much.
Yeah, well, look, Megan, it's often very difficult to be the only person on the stage who's telling the truth, and the only person who is taking on what needs to be taken on. I look at my watch now. We're 17 minutes into this debate, and except for your little speech in the beginning, we've had these three acting as if the race is between the four of us. The fifth guy, who doesn't have the guts to show up and stand here, he's the one who, as you just put it, is way ahead in the polls. And yet, I've got these three guys who are all seemingly to compete with, Voldemort, he who shall not be named. They don't want to talk about it.
You should have just went with George Harrison.
Is that when you go and you say the truth about somebody who is a dictator, a bully, who has taken shots at everybody, whether they've given great service or not over time, who dares to disagree with him, then I understand why these three are timid to say anything about it. Maybe it's because they have future aspirations. Maybe those future aspirations are now, or maybe they're 4 years from now. But the fact of the matter is the truth needs to be told. And for us to go 17 minutes without discussing the guy who has all those gaudy numbers you talked about is ridiculous. I'm in this race because the truth needs to be spoken. He is unfit. This is a guy who just said this past week that he wants to use the Department of Justice to go after his enemies when he gets in there. I mean, the fact of the matter is,
not say
he's
that.
unfit to be president, and there is no bigger issue in this race, Megyn, than Donald Trump, and those numbers prove it.
Governor Christie, we will be addressing that issue of Donald Trump in just a moment, but I'd like to first get to some questions on Israel. Governor DeSantis, tonight as we speak, the war is back on in Gaza. Israeli tanks are on the move and have surrounded the home of the leader of Hamas. 8 Americans have been held hostage in the tunnels beneath Gaza for 60 days now. American troops and warships in the Middle East are under attack. How far would you go as president to secure the release of those 8 American hostages? And would it include sending American forces into combat?
We have to look out for our people. When there are hostages, Commander-in-Chief, you have to do whatever you can to get them done. But the overall issue with this is this administration is trying to hobble Israel from being able to defend itself. They have a right to eliminate Hamas and win a total and complete victory so that they never have to deal with this again. Hamas wants nothing less than a second Holocaust. They would wipe off every single Jew off the map. They would destroy the state of Israel if we could. Joe Biden will say they support Israel, and then they do nothing but try to kneecap them every step of the way. You should not try to direct their war effort. We should work together with them so that they can bring Hamas to heel. Look, I served in Iraq back in the day. I'm the only one running for president that served in the military. I understand that part of the world. It's not the best part of the world. We do have troops there that Biden is leaving basically as sitting ducks. And you have the Iranians that are attacking these troops, and he's responding with basically pinpricks. If you harm an American service member, you're going to have hell to pay when I'm president. We are not going to let our troops be sitting ducks. We also need to look at what's the underlying problem here. Iran. Biden is doing nothing to bring Iran to account. You got to turn the screws on them. Don't let them have any oil revenue. The money they get, they send to Hamas, they send to Hezbollah, and they foment jihad throughout the Middle East. So Biden has empowered Iran just like he's empowered other adversaries. We stand with Israel. They're our best ally in the Middle East. We have a unique relationship with them, and you will see a strong relationship when I'm the president of the United States.
But would you send American troops?
Elizabeth, look, this is the problem with the first 3 debates. Ron gets asked a question, and he doesn't answer it. Your question was very specific. You said, would you send American troops as commander-in-chief? And he went on to this minute and 30-second hosanna about his knowledge of the military and what we need to do, and didn't answer your question. Look, when you're president of the United States, you're not going to have a choice whether to answer that question or not. Your generals, your Secretary of Defense, your Secretary of State, your National Security Advisor are going to present plans to you. They're going to look at you and say, do we go or don't we, Mr. President? And you can't give a 90-second speech about your military service, as laudable as it is.
Would you send American troops in to rescue those hostages?
Absolutely. If they had a plan which showed me that we could get them out safely, you're damn right I'd send the American Army in there to get our people home and get them home now. And I'll answer that question directly.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Mr. Ramaswamy, you have said it was irresponsible for Ambassador Haley to call Hamas's terrorist rampage an attack on America and for her to, quote, rabidly shout, finish them, end quote. The Hamas terror attack left dozens of Americans dead and was the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Why wouldn't it be a good thing to finish Hamas?
Finish them was purposefully vague in a discussion that included Iran, which is what I objected to. And I think it's, as U.S. president, you have to be responsible. What happened to Israel was dead wrong. What Hamas did was medieval. It was subhuman. It was immoral. And we have to call that out for what it is on October 7th. But to say that that was an attack on America fails a basic test. I mean, Nick, if you can't tell the difference between where Israel is and the U.S. is on a map, I can have my 3-year-old son show you the difference.
American citizens
that is irresponsible
killed and
because it has
taken
major
hostage,
consequences,
you
because that
Bollywood
doesn't leave room for what actually is
Shut
an
your pie
attack
hole.
on America. So I believe I have the strongest pro-Israel position actually on the
Yes.
stage, even though it's a little bit different than the standard GOP talking points. And it is this.
He's wanting
the
to
founding
slowly-
vision of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, the George Washington figure of Israel, what did he believe?
I wonder if
he
that
believed
suit
that we
jacket
don't
has a
want,
Sevi
as
tag.
Israel,
I'm thinking he
to
might
depend
fit in
on
a
the fleeting
locker.
sympathies of the West and have our hands tied.
He could.
I think Israel has an absolute right to defend itself to the fullest, without the U.S., the UN, or the EU, or anybody else second-guessing their decisions, as the Biden administration, guess what, is now starting to do. I think that's a more deeply pro-Israel position than anybody else, and it keeps the actual lines of accountability clear because it is a pro-American position. And as leader of the United States of America, just as a father of 2 sons, my sole moral duty is to my family. As your next president, my sole moral duty is to you, the people of this country.
Thank God you
That's
won't
how
be
I'm
able
going
to
to lead.
say
So I'll
that
tell
sentence
Bibi,
for
you
much
smoke the
longer.
terrorists on your southern border, you go ahead and we're rooting for you. We're going to smoke the terrorists on our own southern border, and that's how I'm going to lead this country.
But
Why
Americans
is it
were
when he
killed
says
in that
smoke the
attack.
terrorists, I think something
Americans were
different.
killed in that attack. And so if you looked at this terrorist attack and the number of Americans, this would be one of the top 10
He's gonna
terrorist
smoke
attacks
terrorists.
in
Giggity.
American history. So
think he
our
meant
own
smoke
people
terrorist
were
polls.
killed in that attack. And I think it's absolutely appropriate to point that out and to say that we're in this together, and we are going to work with Israel so that these people are brought to justice.
I agree with that.
Ambassador Haley, I'm coming to you. Iran is on the threshold of becoming a nuclear state. The Wall Street Journal reported that Iranian military leaders gave the green light for Hamas's attack on Israel. You said in last month's debate that, by contrast to the Biden administration's approach to Iran, you would, quote, punch them once and punch them hard. Were you saying that it's time to bomb Iran?
No, I was not saying it's time to bomb Iran, but I will tell you, I dealt with Iran every day when I was at the United Nations, and they only respond to strength. What they don't respond to is when you weaken the sanctions like they did on Iran that allowed China to send them billions to fill their proxies. What they don't respond to is when you give $6 billion for 5 hostages. That only makes them want more hostages. What they don't respond to is when they do 140 strikes on our men and women in Syria and Iraq, and we do nothing but just some small shots back. You've got to punch them, you've got to punch them hard, and let them know that. That's the only way they're going to respond. So the way you do that is you go after their infrastructure in Syria and Iraq where they're hitting our soldiers. That's what you do, and then that's when they'll back off. The problem is you have to see that all of these are related. If you look at the fact Russia was losing that war with Ukraine. Putin had hit rock bottom. They had raised the draft age to 65. He was getting drones and missiles, drones from Iran, missiles from North Korea. And so what happened? When he hit rock bottom, all of a sudden, his other friend, Iran, Hamas goes and invades Israel and butchers those people on Putin's birthday. There is no one happier right now than Putin because all of the attention America had on Ukraine suddenly went to Israel. And that's what they were hoping is going to happen. We need to make sure that we have full clarity that there is a reason, again, that Taiwanese want to help Ukrainians because they know if Ukraine wins, China won't invade Taiwan. There's a reason the Ukrainians want to help Israelis because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins. These are all connected. But what wins all of that is a strong America, not a weak America. And that's what Joe Biden's given us.
I want to say one thing about the tie to Ukraine, if I may. So foreign policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to know that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's her puppet masters right there, the donors. The donors right there that are playing like the puppet masters.
Hold on.
Let me just say something here. You know, his reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen. Promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia. And then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you
that
something.
was a Freudian slip.
That's no
That's not my deal.
Yes, it's exactly what you said. You do this at every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you. Okay? You say this. You do this at every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something.
Somebody might
All
want
of
to
us
toss
see it on
Christie a
video.
donut. He's a bit
We confront
hangry.
you on the debate stage. You say you
Yeah,
didn't say
but
it,
he's also
and then you back
slapping
away. And I want to say,
Ramaswamy, so
no,
I said,
I kind of like
I'm
it.
not done yet.
Well, this
Now
is
look.
this is
And here's
Did you say he's slapping Vivek Salami? That's kind of gross.
This is the fourth debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America. So shut up for a little while.
I'm gonna respond to that.
I want to say
Your
something.
version
We're
of
going to let you
wanna say-
respond to that.
after-
We're going
after
to let
the
you
main
respond to
vote, I'll
that. Let
take
him
that.
finish.
I want to say something else.
I thought we
We're
had
now
a debate
25 minutes
moderator.
into this debate. And he
I
has
think they're back to
insulted
just letting it be a
Nikki
free-for-all.
Haley's basic intelligence.
Orty's not here
Not
yet,
her
so I'm going to
position,
say it.
Her basic
Thunderdome.
intelligence. She doesn't know regions. She
We
wouldn't be
should.
able to find something on
I'm
a
all
map
about the
that his
Thunderdome.
3-year-old could find.
Just
Look,
let 'em fight
if
it
you
out
want to
till there's
disagree on
only
issues,
one
that's
left.
fine.
And then
And
it
Nikki and I
doesn't matter
disagree on
anymore.
some issues. But I'll tell you
We
this.
used to say only
I've
the
known
strong
her for 12
survive. We
years,
should get back to
which
that.
is longer than he's even started to vote in the Republican primary. And while we disagree about some issues and we disagree about who should be president of the United States, what we don't disagree on is this is a smart, accomplished woman, and you should stop insulting
So
her.
I'm going to take this. I'm going to take several times over. So first of all,
Donut guy.
I think we just learned something from
She's
Chris
not going to
Christie.
sleep with you.
We learned three things.
No,
We
he's
learned
trying
three
for a
things right
cabinet
there.
position.
First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what
Yeah, he's
provinces
trying
in
for a
Eastern
position.
Ukraine he
That's
actually wants to
definite.
fight for. Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York.
Yeah.
So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal,
Yeah.
and get the hell out of this
Yeah,
race.
let me tell you.
When it comes to Nikki, I think if you're going to actually send your sons and daughters to go
While
die
you
in somebody
weren't
else's
voting-
war,
Hold on.
while you
better,
weren't
excuse
voting-
me, Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
I haven't
you had
heard
your
a
chance,
time when you aren't
and we're going to be
speaking.
done. So listen up to this: is if these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it for a year. $200 billion of our taxpayer money sent over. Neither of them could even name for you the provinces that they actually want to protect. And this is the people who have been touting their so-called foreign policy experience. It is intellectual fraud. These people are lying to you, the same people who told you about weapons and mass destruction in Iraq. To justify that invasion, didn't know the first thing about it, yet they sent thousands of our sons and daughters to go die. The same people who told you the same in Afghanistan, where the Taliban is still in charge 20 years later. $7 trillion of our national debt due to these toxic neocons. You can put lipstick on a Dick Cheney, it is still a fascist neocon.
Thank
and
you,
you
Mr.
gotta see that
Ramaswamy.
today.
Thank you,
It's
Mr.
Dick
Ramaswamy.
Cheney all over again in this party.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. 15 seconds.
Name the provinces. Neither of you could even name the first thing about Eastern
Thank you.
Europe.
I think we've had enough of this.
And Crimea. Think about that.
Let me just...
It's
All right.
actually Crimea
Somebody
is
needs to
wrong
just
with
walk
Crimea.
up there
All
and
right,
bitch
all right.
slap
The floor is Christie's.
everybody.
Let me just say this. You know, this is the kind of thing where he talks about experience. You know, I was the U.S. attorney in New Jersey when the terrorist attacks were launched against the United States in 2001. I brought the first two cases in this country against terrorists who tried to attack us again. And I know about the threat of terrorism and bullying in this country and around the world. And at that time, he was learning about the provinces in Ukraine, sitting with his smart-ass mouth at Harvard. That's what was going on. And so the fact of the matter is, and back then he was a Democrat. So you know the fact is that all he knows how to do.
Well, you were busy hugging
all
Barack
he knows
Obama
how
getting
to
him
do.
elected.
Thank you.
All he knows how to do is insult good people who have committed their lives to public service and not say anything that moves the ball down the field for the United States.
All right, thank you, Governor Christie. We are going to take a quick break, cool things down a little bit. When we come back, we're going to tackle issues on the southern border. We'll be back in a few minutes.
I know. I think it's time for some dogging.
Oh, this has been fun so far. I thought with only 4 people on the stage, there might actually be more substance. I think it's gonna happen.
You know, we got more.
Yeah, well, I
substance
want
watching
somebody.
these.
Just DeSantis is trying.
Well,
And I mean, the thing that's pissing me off is Haley's just sitting there lying. She absolutely said she was going to end anonymous accounts online. She absolutely said that.
Oh, I know. Well, that's like Chris Christie trying to tout himself as some sort of a foreign policy expert. I'm like, dude, really?
I know. It's not even necessarily. I didn't even catch it. And God, you're going to make me defend Chris Christie.
He's a.
I'm not making you defend Chris Christie. You're choosing to.
No, but what he's trying to say is that Vivek Ramaswamy is a petulant little fuckwad that needs to shut up.
Oh,
and he's not wrong.
I don't disagree with that part. I disagree with the fact that we need to keep writing blank checks to Ukraine, though.
Oh, I'm totally against that. But Nikki Haley isn't going to even write blank checks. She's just going to watch.
Wait, she's going to what? I lost you for a second there.
She's just going to send him bags of cash. I'm here.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. she's gonna wash, fluff, and fold and send it back. It's
just
Iran's gonna look at it and go, damn.
Well, not only that, but do we remember when Ron DeSantis was taking on Disney, and now we know so much more about what Disney was actually doing and screwing over the residents of Florida, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, come on to South Carolina, Disney. That's like woke utopia #1. That's like the content that's transing our kids." And she was just like, "Oh, come on up here." She's a corporate slut.
Yeah, you could have left off corporate.
Okay, but I mean, she's just to say that AFP is the most conservative organization. I was an AFP trained activist. They're not conservative. They're not remotely conservative. They're libertarian. All they are concerned with is free market principles. That's it. And the freer the market, the better, to include open friggin' borders. Like, yeah, they're not conservative. They would not be signing up to deport the Palestinians on visas in our college campuses that are singing From the River to the Sea. They would not sign up to do that at all.
They're just as much for most libertarians I know think maps are borders are lines on a map. So yeah, they're just as much one world as everybody is. All the left is. It's weird. Somebody making tea again or something?
Hmm?
Sound like somebody was making tea or something.
No, she's making margaritas.
Yeah, making margaritas.
Wasted.
Sorry, I thought I put you on mute before I did that.
You better make it up.
I was going to say, if you're drinking margaritas, these better be triples, because I think you're going to need them.
I broke out the nog.
I'm polishing up.
Here's my issue. Here's my issue. The only debate we actually needed was the one that happened between Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom. I've been saying this since this whole season kicked off. We need a debate in this country. Are we going the direction of Florida or are we going the direction of California? That's the decision we really need to make. We don't need to make the decision between, oh, everybody's so mean to Donald Trump, we should elect him again because, and, did he just shart his pants over on the other side? That's not the debate we need to be having.
Yeah, well, it's not that I disagree with you. I'm hoping some things shake up after these first couple of caucuses.
For Republican voters right now. Both the issue of migrants crossing illegally into our country and the separate issue of fentanyl being smuggled in mostly through legal ports of entry. All year, News Nation has been at the border documenting the crisis. In 2023 alone, Border Patrol encountered a record 2.4 million migrants. All
Except
four
for the fact
of you
that the
have
CIA is
talked
making
tough.
money hand
The
over fist
question
off
now
this
is
shit.
how
Nobody wants to
realistic
admit it.
Freeze
is the
cartel
talk.
assets,
Governor DeSantis,
tax
I'd like to start with you.
remittances. Let's do
You
this
have
thing.
pledged to send the military to the southern border on day one of your administration with orders to shoot, quote, stone cold dead anyone illegally entering with a backpack that you believe contains fentanyl. Critics have called this a shoot first, ask questions later policy that would amount to extrajudicial
and then charge
killing.
rednecks money
You
to sit
are
up there
a
and
former
shoot illegal
military
aliens.
lawyer. Why do you think this idea
You
of
forgot
yours
to put
would
it
be
on
legal?
pay-per-view part.
The drug cartels are invading our country, and they are killing our citizens by the tens of thousands every year. We had a situation in Florida. There was an 18-month-old baby that was crawling on the floor of an Airbnb rental. There was fentanyl residue on the carpet, and the baby died. Is this acceptable in this country? I know the elites in D.C., they don't care. They don't care that fentanyl's ravaging your community. They don't care that illegal aliens are ravaging our community and overwhelming our community. The commander-in-chief not only has a right, you have a responsibility to fight back against these people.
And does that mean shooting first?
It means you're going to categorize them as foreign terrorist organizations, and we will identify just like we would anywhere. When I was in Iraq,
Yeah, Jeff, I agree.
The Al-Qaeda wasn't wearing a uniform. You'd see anyone walking down the street, they all had man dresses on. You didn't know if someone had a bomb, an IED attached or not. And so you had to make a judgment based on intelligence, based on positive identification. But we're going to be able to get the intelligence on these cartel people. And here's the thing. If we had a wall across the southern border, which I support, this would not have happened. We need to build a wall across the southern border. I'll get it done, and Mexico is supposed to pay for it. Remember, here's how you do that. I am going to have fees on remittances from foreign workers when they send the money back to foreign countries. We're going to tax it, and we're going to build a wall with that. So, yes, you should have had that. But we don't have it. I'm going to build it. But we have to lean in on this problem. I am not going to sit there and allow mothers to lose more kids because of fentanyl overdose. I am not going to sit there and let sex trafficking go unabated or human trafficking go unabated. There's going to be a new sheriff in town, and these drug cartels better buckle up.
Thank you. Ambassador Haley, you have pledged to catch and deport all migrants who are here in this country illegally. But then you said in Londonderry, New Hampshire last month that you will not deport those who are working and paying taxes rather than feeding off the system. Which is it?
So first of all, what I said is all of the 7 or 8 million illegals that have come under Biden's watch absolutely have to go back. We have to stop the incentive of what's bringing them over here in the first place. Biden just gave temporary protective status to 500,000 Venezuelans. That's 500,000 Social Security cards. That's 500,000 driver's licenses. And I know from my time at the United Nations, the first thing they do is pick up the phone and said, we came over, come on over. And that's what sends more. You have to go and deport these people so they know it can't happen again. For those that have been here longer than that, we've got to start seeing who is it, how long have they been here, have they been vetted, have they paid taxes, have they been working, and figure out who else is out there. But what I know is my parents came here legally. They put in the time, they put in the price. They are offended by those that are coming illegally. We can't let them skip the line. But when you talk about fentanyl like you did before, let's look at something else. Yes, I think we should send special operations over and take out the cartels. I think we should do a remain in Mexico policy so they never step foot in U.S. soil in the first place. But look at where fentanyl came from. Let's go to the heart of the matter. It came from China. That's why we need to end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. I promise you, they need our economy. They will immediately stop that. But this is where Trump went wrong. Trump was good on trade, but that's all he was with China. Because here he allowed fentanyl to continue to come over. He continued to allow them to he would give them technology that would build up their military and hurt us. He allowed the Chinese infiltration for them to buy up farmland, to put money in our universities, and to continue to do things that were harmful for America. We now have a spy base in Cuba and police stations, and Trump didn't do anything about it.
It wasn't just Trump,
though. I mean, this is rich, because when she was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 ranked governor of bringing the CCP into her state. She wrote a love letter to the Chinese ambassador saying how great a friend China is. You can look at it. We put it on our website, rondesantis.com. There's also a video of her as governor standing in front of a Chinese flag with a Chinese business saying that she now works for them, talking about this Chinese company. So she's been very weak on China. Now, here's the problem. The rhetoric is different, but her donors, these Wall Street liberal donors, they make money in China. They are not going to let her be tough on China, and she will cave to the donors. She will not stand up for you.
15 seconds, Ambassador.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him, and now they support me. The second thing is he has a company, a Chinese company, UGAS, that he just did a rally there last year. They have given you $340,000 in campaign donations between them and their employees. They are tied to the Communist Chinese Party. Jinko Solar is another one. They went and expanded. You gave $2 million in subsidies.
I banned China from buying land in the state of Florida.
The Department of
I ejected the Confucius Institute. Nikki Haley brought Confucius Institutes to the universities in South Carolina.
That is not
true. I ejected them. So I have a record of standing up and do what's right. And here's the thing.
You have a record of lying.
She's trying to say things like that. Even the liberal media groups that usually if I say the sky is blue, they'll fact check me and say that's wrong. They looked at her charges. They said it was totally false, that they could not find one instance of me recruiting a Chinese business coming to Florida. You know why? Because we never recruited any Chinese businesses to the state of Florida.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy, over the past year, fentanyl has killed more than 75,000 Americans, 1,000 of them right here in Alabama. You have vowed to use the military to, quote, annihilate drug labs inside Mexico, something the president of Mexico said would be
so we're going to invade
act.
Mexico.
But fentanyl can easily be made anywhere,
cool.
and labs that are shut down can easily and quickly be replaced. Are your tough enforcement policies offering false hope to a country racked by addiction?
To the contrary, I don't think it's going to have to come to that if we deal with the actual demand side problem that we also have in this country. I mean, the easy part is talking about how we're going to use our military to secure the border. I will, and I believe that everybody else wants to do the same thing. But the harder part is dealing with the crisis of purpose and meaning, the mental health epidemic raging across this country like wildfire. And there's a reason why after the opioid crisis, you see fentanyl. And even after we get fentanyl, and we are going to be sure to make sure we do it, this one is worse for many reasons. They're illegally lacing it into pharmaceuticals, so it's more dangerous. But we're deluding ourselves. The real false promise here is thinking that we're going to have dealt with that underlying mental health epidemic in this country by just dealing with the demand side of it. But I want to get back to this issue of the root cause, because a lot of these are coming from labs in Wuhan, China, of all places. Drug materials that are going to the Mexican drug cartels that they're pumping across that southern border like a modern opium war. I think it is going to take a U.S. president that's going to have a very different conversation with Xi Jinping than what Joe Biden just had in California. I will tell Xi Jinping, you will not only not buy land in this country or donate to universities in this country. U.S. businesses won't expand into the Chinese market until they're playing by the same set of rules. And the same country that's putting fentanyl into illegal pharmaceuticals in Mexico, it's no coincidence, is the exact same country that also unleashed hell on the world with the COVID-19 pandemic. We also have to hold them accountable with every financial lever that we have available. That is what it actually means to stand with a spine. And you mark my words, if we're willing to stand with the spine, China will absolutely have to fold because they're in a tougher spot than we are. And then we're back to playing by the same set of rules.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Thank you. Let's talk about the economy. Ambassador Haley, homeownership has always been part of the American dream, but it's increasingly out of reach for younger Americans. This year, mortgage rates reached 30-year highs. Home prices have risen $190,000 over the past decade. Is this a free market at work, or should the federal government do something to make homes more affordable?
Well, first of all, I mean, you're exactly right. My daughter just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. Right now, the average homeowner in America is 49 years old. You've got young people everywhere. That used to be the American dream, and now it's out of reach. But you look at what happened. You first of all look at what the Fed did. The Fed did a terrible job when they allowed all of that money to go through. You saw the Treasury bond rates go up. That affected mortgage rates. That affected automobile rates. That affected insurance rates. And so now we have a high interest rate. You've got a supply issue. Ask any builder. The supply issues have continued to be there. That's caused the rate to go up. And then you've got insurances that have gone up. And so what you have is a lot of younger people who, one,
I can't say much because I'm old and fat, but for somebody who hasn't been able to say much, Christy's looking winded already.
They've made the regulations so hard that they don't want to give loans on mortgages anymore. So what we have to do is we have to open it up. We have to, one, grow our economy so that people have more money in their pockets. We've got to look at the supply chain and make sure that we are funneling that so that builders don't have to sit there and go overseas to find things. And then we need to make sure that we really stop paying down this debt, make sure that we stop the borrowing, stop the spending. I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels, because our kids are not going to forgive us for all the spending that happened. And as much as everybody wants to talk about how Donald Trump had a good economy, $9 trillion in debt, he did just in 4 years. And we're all paying the price of that, including those mortgage prices.
We're going to come back to President Trump, I promise. Governor DeSantis, the latest News Nation Decision Desk poll found that inflation tops the worries of American voters. 61% say they're very concerned, and the working class is hardest hit. Economists say this was fueled by a glut of federal spending. The Biden administration has added $6 trillion to the national debt so far, but President Trump wasn't exactly a penny pincher. His administration added $7.8 trillion. Do Republicans, including President Trump, share the blame for inflation? And what concrete steps would President DeSantis take to help Americans make ends meet?
The borrowing, printing, and spending of money was both parties in Washington, D.C. That's just a fact. Republicans in Washington have spent. It's driven your prices higher, and it's driven your interest rates to the point where you can't afford. I met a young fella in Iowa. He had graduated college a couple years ago, and he's like, Governor, I don't have a chance. I'm gainfully employed. He's like, I have no chance to afford a home and start a family. That is taking the American dream away from people. So we're going to get the inflation down. We're going to get the interest rates down. We are going to reduce spending, and I will be willing to veto, and I vetoed a lot as governor of Florida, and we'll do that. We're also going to open up all of our domestic energy for production, lower your gas prices, lower the price of fuel. That's going to help the economy. It also help jobs, and we'll do it. But, you know, another thing that's burdening young people are these student loans. Now, I don't support having a truck driver having to pay a student loan for someone that got a degree in gender studies. That is wrong. We should not have taxpayers do that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to get to the root cause of the problem. These student loans are going to be backed by the universities because they need to have an incentive to produce gainful employment for people. They should not be indulging in ideological studies. They should be focusing on things that work. And we're going to take some of this money and we're going to move it to actual vocational training. In Florida, we doubled apprenticeships. We have more truck drivers. These are in-demand skills. Don't let anybody tell you that the only way you can be successful is through a 4-year brick and ivy degree. That's one way you can be. It's not the only way, and we're going to fix that problem in the United States of America.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you've praised cryptocurrency like Bitcoin as an opt-out from our, quote, broken financial architecture, and you oppose efforts to regulate it. The head of the largest international crypto exchange just pleaded guilty to allowing his platform to launder money for terrorists, including Hamas. You say your cryptocurrency plan will, quote, ensure economic freedom for Americans, end quote.
Ow.
Won't it also ensure economic freedom for fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists?
Look, fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists have been defrauding people for a long time. Our regulations need to catch up with the current moment. The fact that SBF was able to do what he did at FTX shows that whatever they have as the current framework isn't working. And I think it is nothing short of embarrassing that Gary Gensler, the current leader of the SEC, in front of Congress, could not even say whether Ethereum counted as a regulated security or not. And so I think that this is just another example of the administrative state gone too far. Here's the dirty little secret in American politics today. The people who we elect to run the government are not the ones who are even actually running the government. It is the bureaucrats in those three-letter agencies that are writing regulations that Congress never gave them the authority to write. And the good news is a U.S. president can absolutely fix that. That takes a U.S. president with a spine. So what I've said is in my administration, by the end of year one, we will have a 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats. We will shut down government agencies that should not exist. We will rescind any regulation that fails the test of West Virginia versus EPA, which is the most important Supreme Court case of our lifetime, that said if Congress didn't delegate that to an administrative agency, then it's unconstitutional. These are seismic changes. These are big changes that the next president can deliver without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. And I want people to understand that distinction, because people have been sold myths by politicians for a long time saying, I'm going to work with Congress to do this or that. Much of what you've heard on the stage from the other politicians fit that description. They need Congress. The things that I'm promising you, This is what the leader of the executive branch gets to do under Article 2 of the Constitution.
Thank you, sir.
Cut down the bureaucracy. That's how we grow our
sir.
economy and put the Federal Reserve in its place. This is part of the crypto discussion.
No.
90%
Mr.
headcount reduction at the Fed.
You're out of time. 15 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
So one of the dangers that we're going to face, Biden wants, is a central bank digital currency. They want to get rid of cash, crypto. They want to force you to do that. They'll take away your privacy. They will absolutely regulate your purchases. On day one as president, we take the idea of central bank digital currency and we throw it in the trash can. It'll be dead on arrival.
I agree with that. Gotta go to break. Gotta get a break. I have a whole second hour to get to. It's exciting. And when we come back, we got a big subject. Huge, you might even say. Donald Trump. Stay tuned.
Do we have to bring up Emperor Hirohito? Do we really have to? Do we have to?
Well, if they do, that means we're just going to have to drink faster and more.
I just brought the bottle with me tonight. I only have enough left for probably about a couple of doubles anyway, so I'm just kind of sipping on the bottle.
Fortunately, I had my IV refills.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
But I'm not an alcoholic, damn it. I can stop anytime.
No, you're not an alcoholic. Alcoholics are quitters. They only start calling themselves alcoholics when they start going to AA.
Oh, true. Okay.
I was my dad and my uncle used to get in fights about that all the time, and my uncle finally got so tired of my dad's crap because my dad used to drink almost as much as my uncle, but my uncle couldn't hold it as well. So every time they got together and they started drinking, my uncle would start being stupid, and my dad was always like, "You're a fucking alcoholic." He's like, "I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics are quitters. I'm a drunk." It's like, well, he's not wrong.
I'm a podcaster.
He's not wrong. I think Stacy might have decided she had enough again. She's muted again.
No, she said she had places to go, so she went on mute.
No, I was saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I was still on mute. I hadn't heard DeSantis's plan for higher education yet. I like that idea.
Yeah, I was like, dude, she's being quiet.
If the university wants to be eligible for student loans, they should have skin in the game. Absolutely, especially these ones like Harvard with a $50 billion endowment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You better make damn sure you're teaching these kids that they can get something a job at doing.
And preferably not community activism.
Yeah. Severely limiting the number of NGOs we have. Was that Dodd-Frank that did that? Yeah, we need to fix that too. I don't even realize what the problem is a lot of the times.
And I don't know why they're so worried about limiting the NGOs. There's lots of PIs. Never mind. Dad joke.
Oh, okay.
You said NGO and I said BI. So BI NGO. Just saying.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake.
That's all right.
That's because you're not drinking, Stacey.
I am not. Since I started working nights, the ability for me to imbibe is like significantly reduced.
Boo!
We expect better of you from that. Okay. You know.
Sorry.
Dedicated people would find a way.
You know what this means?
Yeah, I guess I'm not that dedicated.
You know what this means?
Huh?
This means there's entirely too much blood in your alcohol stream.
Yeah, well. I finally had to tell my dad I wasn't going to CPAC this year. So.
Oh, no. Oh,
I mean, oh, no.
Well, because I was actually trying to go for once.
Dude, you don't want to go. You don't want to go. It sucks.
CPAC's not what it is, what it used to be anymore.
It's not what it used to be at all. It's like Trump Central. Instead of having Fox News there and NRA News, which is now defunct, and all the other conservative outlets, all you have is Steve Bannon's War Room in the corner.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah, no, it basically Matt Schlapp turned CPAC into the Trump super PAC. If you are not a Trump supporter, you have no business going there. I guarantee you DeSantis won't go. I doubt Haley will go. If they do, they're just wasting their time. I mean, DeSantis didn't go last year.
Yeah, maybe
you knew what it was.
Maybe I won't be trying to go this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste my money.
All right, they're back.
Runner in this race, Donald Trump. We invited him to come tonight, as you know, but he declined to come. But we'd like to ask you a couple questions about him now. Ambassador Haley, former President Trump recently promised, if he's reelected, to bring back and expand his program restricting immigration from Muslim countries. Here he is in Iowa on October 16th.
No longer will we allow dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs to get residency in our country. We're not going to let them stay here. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. You're just disqualified.
Ambassador Haley, do you support President Trump's plan for ideological screening?
Well, I don't think that you have a straight-up Muslim ban as much as you look at the countries that have terrorist activity that want to hurt Americans. You can ban those people from those countries. That's the way we should look at it, is which countries are a threat to us. You look at what came across the southern border. What worries me the most are those that came from Iran, from Yemen, from Lebanon, those areas where they say death to America. That's where you want to be careful. It's not about a religion. It's about a fact that certain countries are dangerous and are threats to us. A president has one job, and that's to keep Americans safe. And that's what we've got to do, is make sure that we have good national security in that process. And that's the way you should look at it, is where the terrorist threats are, how we're going to deal with it, and what we're doing about it. And the biggest threat we have right now is communist China. But you have to also look at what Iran and Russia are doing as well. And we need to be paying attention to that. That's why we have to focus on things like cyber, on space, on artificial intelligence, and not just the regular things that we've always focused on.
It's not just terrorism, though. That's important. But look what's happened in Europe. You have more anti-Semitism in Germany than at any time since Adolf Hitler. Why? Because they imported mass numbers of people who reject their culture. Europe is committing suicide with the mass migration, and it's illegal and legal. Nikki Haley said the other day there should be no limits on legal immigration, and that corporate CEOs should set the policy on that. There needs to be limits on immigration, and we should not be importing people from cultures that are hostile. So, for example, I said with the Gaza, you had some of the squad wanted to import 300,000 people from the Gaza Strip. I said, no, we're not taking anyone from Gaza because of the anti-Semitism and because they reject American culture. So we've got to get smart about this. We cannot let the United States be like Europe.
So there's a low-hanging fruit here, if I may just hit this point, because it relates to what they just said. There are things that the government can do right now that nobody's talking about amongst the professional politicians in this race. What about all of the illegals who are already here? Here's the answer. There's 287G in the law. That is a provision that already allows ICE agents to deputize or allow local law enforcement to enforce those ICE warrants. And it shocks me that nobody in the Republican Party is talking about it, because there are 1 million then officials, law enforcement officials in this country. And against that backdrop, we absolutely have the ability to deport anybody who's in this country illegally.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
need to be talking about it
Ramaswamy.
more in this country.
Thank you. Governor Christie.
I actually did that as governor of South Carolina.
Governor Christie asked last night in Iowa whether he would be a dictator if he wins a second term in office. Donald Trump quipped, no, quote, except for day one, promising to seal the southern border. He has also pledged to begin the largest deportation operation in American history, saying that migrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country. He has pledged to round up and expel an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. What do you make of that plan?
I think it's completely predictable. I mean, look, he's made it very clear. There's no mystery to what he wants to do. He started off his campaign by saying, I am your retribution. 8 years ago, he said, I am your voice. This is an angry, bitter man who now wants to be back as president because he wants to exact retribution on anyone who has disagreed with him, anyone who has tried to hold him to account for his own conduct, And every one of these policies that he's talking about are about pursuing a plan of retribution. And yet, at the first debate, my three colleagues on this stage, when asked if he would be convicted of federal felonies, would they still support him, raise their hand, looked into the camera, and let everybody know that they would still support him even if convicted of federal felonies. Federal felonies, by the way. Federal felonies which involve our election process, federal felonies which involve the most sensitive of our governmental secrets, federal felonies where he instructed others to commit crimes, folks who are now agreeing to go to jail because of what they did in his name. So do I think he was kidding when he said he was a dictator? All you have to do is look at the history. And that's why failing to speak out against him, making excuses for him, pretending that somehow he's a victim, empowers him. You want to know why those poll numbers are where they are? Because folks like these three guys on the stage make it seem like his conduct is acceptable. Let me make it clear. His conduct is unacceptable. He's unfit, and be careful of what you're going to get. If you ever got another Donald Trump term, he's letting you know, I am your retribution. He will only be, Elizabeth, he will only be his own retribution. He doesn't care for the American people. It's Donald Trump first.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis. Thank you. Governor DeSantis. Donald Trump would be older on day one of his second presidency than Joe Biden was on day one of his first. You have said Trump is not the same man he was when he ran in 2016. Your campaign is running ads showing Trump confused. And you have said he has, quote, lost the zip on his fastball. You seem to be saying Donald Trump is no longer mentally fit to be president. Is that what you think?
Look, he is showing Father Time is undefeated. The idea that we're going to put someone up there that's almost 80 and there's going to be no effects from that, we all know that that's not true. And so we have an opportunity to do a next generation of leaders and really be able to move this country forward. We also need a president that can serve 2 terms. I don't think Donald Trump, I think he's going to have, I don't think he'd be able to get elected. The Democrats want him to be the nominee. We see that. They are going to turn the screws the minute, if he got the nomination,
but do you think he's
you're going to see it.
Fit to be president?
I think we need to have somebody younger. I think when you get up to 80, I don't think it's a job for that. But let me just respond to some of the things there. Look, the media is making a big deal about what he said about some of these comments. I would just remind people that is not how he governed. He didn't even fire Dr. Fauci. He didn't fire Christopher Wray. He didn't clean up the swamp. He said he was going to drain it. He did not drain it. He said he was going to build the wall and have Mexico pay for it. We don't have the wall. He did say in 2016 he'd have the largest deportation program in history. He deported less than Barack Obama did when Barack Obama was president. So some of these policies he ran on in 16, I was cheering him on then, but he didn't deliver it. Here's what I can promise people. 100% of the things I promised as governor, I delivered on those promises. I beat the left time and time again, and that's what I'll do for you as president. We got to start winning again as a party. Yes, win the election, but we've got to start getting these issues. I will go in and wreak havoc on this bureaucracy. You will see people fired, and we are going to bring a reckoning for how this government handled COVID-19.
Here's what irritates. Now, Chris, you had your chance to wax eloquent on Donald Trump. You're doing it all this whole
Why
race.
didn't he just answer the question? The question was very direct. Is he fit to be president or isn't he? The rest of the speech is interesting, but completely non-responsive. And if we were in a courtroom, they'd strike the answer and say, Governor DeSantis.
No, they wouldn't. They would say that
you're a smart
they would
man.
argue that
No, they would.
No, they wouldn't.
They would
Chris.
strike the answer
no, they wouldn't.
because you're not answering
You
it. Is he
don't
fit?
You
Is
have
he
your
fit?
you have
no.
your thing.
Is he fit
you
or
have your
isn't he?
thing.
No, I don't have my thing.
We don't.
He's the thing. Is
we
he
do
fit
not
or
want
isn't
to
he?
do
You're talking about him being 80 years old.
It doesn't mean that somebody
is he
couldn't
fit?
get elected. That's
Ron,
up to the people.
Governor DeSantis, let
is he fit or isn't he?
No, Governor DeSantis, let him finish.
Ron,
Okay.
is
I
he
think
fit?
we have an opportunity to do
Guys,
somebody
guys,
who
no
is in the
talking
prime
over
of their
each other.
life.
Yes.
You don't have to
No
worry
talking.
about all this stuff with
Ron,
confidence.
DeSantis,
We can get it done,
Stop.
and we'll do it.
I'm going to come to you. Finish.
Look, Father Time is undefeated. I don't know how he would score on a test, but I know this. We have an opportunity to nominate someone and elect someone for 2 terms who's going to be spitting nails on day one and for 8 years
So
deliver
you do think he's
big
fit?
result.
We
should not nominate somebody
He won't answer.
who's almost 80 years old.
He's afraid to answer.
No, I'm not.
You have to either you're afraid or you're not listening.
No, it's not.
There's a simple question.
Is he fit? Hey, nobody can hear this. No one can hear you. They can't hear you. You finish, and then you get it back.
All right.
Look, I'm a simple guy. Okay? I hear the question, and I answer.
Hey, you are a simple guy.
Is he fit or isn't he? I'll concede you're fit, Ron. You're a new generation. You're 44 years old. I wish I was still 44 years old. Okay?
45.
Well, congratulations. I'd still take 45. Is he fit or isn't he? And this is the problem with my three colleagues. They're afraid to offend. And let me tell you something. If you're afraid to offend Donald Trump, then what are you going to do when you sit across from President Xi, you sit across from the Ayatollah, you sit across from Putin? You have to be willing to offend with the truth.
Okay.
And answer the question. Fit or unfit?
Okay, listen.
Fit or unfit?
I promised Ron DeSantis a minute and not a full minute.
I've got a second. It is not about offending.
You can weigh in and then we're moving on.
It's about pointing out, do you want to elect somebody who will be older than Biden was when he went in 2021? I don't think he's as bad as Biden was at all, but I do think that over a 4-year period, it is not a job for somebody that's pushing 80. We need somebody that's younger. We need somebody that's going to be able to go in there and clean house on day one and do it for 2 terms. And I'll be able to do
Here's my issue with all 3 of my other colleagues on this debate stage, is all 3 of them have been licking Donald Trump's boots for years for money and endorsements.
Yeah, well, you've been licking something else since you started stepping up on that stage, my friend.
Donald Trump for that endorsement.
And you attacked him in your book a year ago.
Same thing with Chris Christie as a lobbyist, begging them for COVID money for his special interests in New Jersey, prepping him for the debates last time around. These people are now Monday morning quarterbacking some decisions.
No, I don't think it's highlights. I think
the real enemy is not Donald Trump.
It's
not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11. That the great replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform. That the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech.
It's not just his gut, my friend.
That the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who are licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking him and criticizing him when it's convenient.
Governor Christie. You do not favor a ban on trans medical treatments for minors, saying it's a parental rights issue. The surgeries done on minors involve cutting off body parts at a time when these kids cannot even legally smoke a cigarette. Kids who go from puberty blockers to cross-sex hormones are at a much greater likelihood of winding up sterile. How is it that you think a parent should be able to okay these surgeries, never mind the sterilization of a child? And aren't you way too out of step on this issue to be the Republican nominee?
No, I'm not. Because Republicans believe in less government, not more. In less involvement with government, not more government involvement in people's lives. And you know what, Megan? I trust parents. And we're out there saying that we should empower parents in education. We should empower parents to make more decisions about where their kids go to school. I agree. We should empower parents to be teaching the values that they believe in their homes without the government telling them what those values should be. And yet, we want to take other parental rights away. I'm sorry. As a father of 4, I believe there is no one who loves my children more than me. There's no one who loves my children more than my wife. There's no one who cares more about their success and health in life than we do. Not some government bureaucrat, not some... You look at these jokers down in Congress. It takes them 3 weeks to pick a speaker.
So
and up until 2 days ago, they couldn't promote somebody in the military in the United States Senate who earned their new rank. And we're going to put my children's health and my decisions in their hands for them to make those decisions, for Joe Biden to make those decisions, for me and for my wife. Let me just say this. This is not something I favor. I think it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. But that's my opinion as a parent, Megan. And I get to make the decisions about my children, not anybody else.
There are laws
Every
about
parent
child
who's
abuse,
watching
you
tonight,
donut
you
swirling
start to turn
fat
over
fuck.
just a little bit of this authority, the authority they're going to take from you next, you're not going to like. I'll stand up for parents each and every time.
So there are laws
you do not have
drinking by
you do not have the right.
Let me tell you something. I have a follow-up question for him, and you guys are going to get to weigh in, okay? Here's my follow-up question. You talk about parental rights. Let's talk about them. When you were governor in 2017, you signed a law that required new guidelines for schools dealing with transgender students. Those guidelines required schools to accept a child's preferred gender identity, even if the minor's parents objected.
Not true.
And it said that there is no duty for schools to notify parents if their son or daughter changes their gender identity, allowing this serious issue to remain a secret between the school and a child. How is any of that pro-parental rights?
By the way, that's simply not true.
You're doing what you accuse me of, Chris. It is absolutely true.
That's simply not true. That's simply not true. That law was put into effect in 2018 and regulated in 2018 after I was out of office, Megan. No, we did not, Megan. We did not issue those guidelines, and you're wrong about that. Simply wrong. I have stood up each and every time.
And
so I think if this is
we know you mandated the guidelines because there's still the guidelines while you were the governor.
For parents to be able to make the decisions for their minor children.
But parents,
every single time, parents should make those decisions. And by the way, you know what? Every once in a while, parents are going to make decisions that we disagree with. But the minute you start to take those rights away from parents,
so again, Chris Christie is calling to disband Child Protective
what
Services.
Rights are going to be taken away next,
because
and what's
you
going
do
to
not
happen
as
child
parents,
abuse.
you do not have the right to abuse your kids. This is This is mutilating these minors. These are irreversible procedures. And this is something that other countries in Europe, like Sweden, once they started doing it, they saw it did incalculable damage. They've shut it down. I signed legislation in Florida banning the mutilation of minors because it is wrong. We cannot allow this to happen in this country. And I know Chris disagrees with me, and I think he has an honest position. Nikki disagrees with me. She opposes the bill that we did to ban that. She said the law shouldn't get involved with it. You said the law shouldn't get involved with it. She also, though, I think, and this flows from what she did as governor of South Carolina, they had a bill to try to say that men shouldn't go into girls' bathrooms. And she killed that bill, and she bragged that she killed that bill. Even to this day, she bragged that. I don't think men should be going into little girls' bathrooms. I think it's wrong, and I think we have every right to protect them from that.
I am going to come to you. I promise 10 seconds. Go quickly.
I think the North Star here is transgenderism is a mental health disorder. We don't let you smoke a cigarette by the age of 18. We don't let you have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21. And I just challenge Ron DeSantis to go one step further and support what I think is clearly within the authority to do using federal funds just like Reagan did in '84 for the Highway Act that said the minimum drinking age needs to be 21. We can do the same thing when it comes to banning genital mutilation or chemical castration.
Okay.
I know Ron's been unclear about that on the federal level. I'm crystal clear. That's where I stand.
Got it.
That's a mental health disorder. That's where we need to be at.
Go ahead.
So first of all, Ron has continued to lie because he's losing.
No, it's not a lie.
You are lying.
You said it on tape.
So first of all, I will say that when I was governor, 10 years ago when the bathroom situation came up, we had maybe a handful of kids that were dealing with an issue. And I said, we don't need to bring government into this, but boys go into boys' bathrooms, girls go into girls' bathrooms, and if anyone else has an issue, they use a private bathroom. Now, 10 years later, we see that this issue has exploded. And this shows how hypocritical Ron continues to be. When he was running for governor and they asked him about that, he said he didn't think bathroom bills were a good use of his time. You can go look that up.
I signed a bathroom bill in Florida, so
but
that's obviously not true.
So the idea that you would say that I was against
that. You didn't. You killed it. I signed it. I stood up for little girls. You didn't do it. And there was this going on. I was actually just in South Carolina. Some of the legislators told me at the time there were boys going into the girls. That's the whole reason why they did it.
No.
And so they say when she does that explanation that doesn't hold water. And this is the upstate of South Carolina.
Ron,
I signed the bill. I protected the girls.
Do you know South Carolinians?
She did not do it.
Do you know South Carolinians? Because South Carolinians... No. You are not going to talk about my state like that, because I will tell you for a fact, South Carolinians never allowed that to happen, and we did not have that issue at the time. What I have always said is boys go into a boys' bathroom, girls go into a girls' bathroom. But hold on one second. I also say that biological boys shouldn't be playing in girls' sports, and I will do everything I can to stop that, because it's the women's issue of our time.
This is nighttime legislation to protect women's sports. I actually get this stuff done.
You got it.
Thank you, guys. We're going to move on. Mr. Ramaswamy, when discussing your Hindu faith in September, you seemed to take a shot at Ambassador Haley, who is also Indian American and who converted to Christianity as an adult. You said, an easy thing for me to do, being a politician, is to shorten my name, profess to be a Christian, and then run. Make Vivek Vicky or whatever, end quote. Are you questioning Nikki Haley's Christian convictions? And why has your campaign made a point of referring to Ambassador Haley by her given first name, Nimrata, even though she has gone by Nikki for her whole life?
Well, my whole deal is if Nikki Haley, of all people, should know how to pronounce my name correctly, the rest of the news media can learn it. My deal is I'll call her Nikki when she can say my own name right. That's our little fun side bet there. Here's what I will say is deeper. I don't question her faith, but I question her authenticity. And I think that's deeper here. We were just talking about the trans issue. This is a symptom of a deeper cancer in American life, identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic. It's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. And I've spoken about this to the left. My books are all about this. I've preached this to the left, but it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. We're talking about that trans issue. Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And it actually needs to end. There's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppet right up here tonight. This is how this game is played. The puppet masters put up their puppet, and I reject the use of identity politics in this party. It has been a cancer coming from the left, and I'm sick and tired of the double standards the people of this country are too. Having 2 X chromosomes does not immunize you from criticism.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Governor Haley, would you like to respond?
No. It's not worth my time to respond to him.
You have been using identity politics at every step. She knows it's true, and that's why she's actually
Sir, we're not going to give you a response to the question that was to you.
Okay, we got to move on to this. Now, by arrangement with the Republican National Committee, we've got 2 questions for you about the Justice Department and our election system. Here's Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch. Governor Christie, this one's for you.
President Trump and many of his supporters claim federal law enforcement agencies have abused his civil rights for the last 8 years by, among other things, spying on him and now prosecuting him while having treated Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden with kid gloves. A recent Gallup poll shows that Americans think more highly of the U.S. Postal Service than they do the FBI or Justice Department. What would you do as president to restore the faith of the American people in these agencies?
Well, first off, I'm the only person on this stage who's actually done a job in the Department of Justice. I was the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey in the 5th largest office in this country, appointed by President Bush on September 10th, 2001.
I missed the days where all we had to
and
do
it was an
was
extraordinary
just mock
time
the
in this
postman.
country to be on the front lines of fighting the greatest attack against our country since Pearl Harbor.
Was a mailman.
And I'm proud of the
Nobody wants
7
to hear
years
about
I
Cliff
spent
Clavin, kid. Go ahead.
in the Justice Department. And one of the reasons I am is because I had an attorney general when I came in named John Ashcroft. And John Ashcroft stood up and told each and every one of us our job was to do one thing, to make sure justice was done every day, regardless of partisanship, regardless of gender or race or any other consideration. And that's what we did for 7 years. And at a time when our country was at its greatest moment of danger in the last 40 years, we did exactly that, and there was not another domestic terrorist attack on this soil. So what I would do as president, having had that experience, and the only one who's had that experience, is to pick an attorney general who will absolutely do the same thing that John Ashcroft did, to pick U.S. attorneys who will only care about making sure that justice is done without regard to any other consideration but the facts that are presented and whether someone is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and the government can prove it. We have had attorneys general like Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch and Jeff Sessions, and now our current attorney general, who have not met that standard. And the only way you restore people's faith in the justice system is to put someone like that in charge of the Justice Department, and then as president, to get the hell out of the way on anything that involves criminal investigations. If a president's involved in trying to do something and put their thumb on the scale, as Donald Trump says he will do, that makes people much less likely to believe our justice system can be fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor DeSantis, this next one's for you. Back to Tom Fitton.
Many Republicans are concerned about the legitimacy of elections. A federal judge just ruled that Pennsylvania must count undated mail-in ballots, and unlike Alabama, many states still don't require any identification to vote. What should states do now to increase election integrity and voter confidence for the 2024 election?
Well, Tom, thanks for the question. Thanks for what you guys do at Judicial Watch. It's really, really important. There's a lot of corruption in this government. You guys are doing a great job. What you should do for election integrity is do what we did in Florida. 20 years ago, Florida and elections was a joke. Everybody would laugh at it. I came in, I removed a couple supervisors from South Florida. We require voter ID universal, no Zuckerbucks, no mass mail balloting, and no ballot harvesting. We even have an agency that prosecutes people for violating election laws. The result of that, in both 2020 and 2022, we counted millions and millions of votes on election night, produced the results, it was transparent, and everybody was happy. That is not happening throughout this country. But let me tell you this as the nominee. I think it's important. Not every state's where we need it to be. There is ballot harvesting in places like Nevada, all these places. I am not going to fight with one hand tied behind my back. I'm going to have organizations in all the swing states. If they're harvesting, we're harvesting. If they're Zuckerbucks, we're Zuckerbucks. We are going to exploit whatever the rules are. I favor changing the rules to be like Florida and some of the other states that have done a good job. But until then, we have to do that. And then just on the Justice Department and FBI. I mean, I remember being, in Iraq working with FBI on the ground and being, and then I was a special assistant. I used to have such a high regard for these agencies. What they did to Donald Trump with the Russia collusion was one of the biggest abuses of power in the history of our country. These agencies need to be cleaned out. With me, you'll have a new FBI director on day one. We're going to clear out the DOJ, the IRS, all these places. Buckle your seatbelts. There's going to be a new sheriff in town.
Thank you. All right, we got to do a quick break. We're going to come back in 1 minute. China up next.
China is asshole.
China's always asshole.
Growing up,
Baitin is
Hughes and
asshole.
Cowboy was one and the same. My daddy's.
I don't know, it wouldn't let me mute for some reason. Evil.
All right. Well, this was a wasted debate as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's still like 30 minutes left, too. But I mean,
I much prefer the format that they did last week with Newsom and DeSantis.
Yeah, I have to admit that was much better.
Get the audience out of there so they're not all trying to, get the biggest applause, and then just have two of them. I mean, how hard is it to do a round?
Well, the audience isn't an audience; it's donors. So that's completely different to begin with. No. But all I'm saying is, I don't even know. I much prefer the interviews that Glenn Beck and Jordan Peterson are doing. I like the long form interview. I want I want somebody to give more than a minute and a half in response and have somebody be able to drill down. Like Ron DeSantis did an excellent job with both Glenn Beck and with Jordan Peterson. I think debates should go the way of the dodo bird. Honestly.
Yeah.
Unless we go back to the true Lincoln Douglas forum, and then I'm all in.
I think we ought to go back to dueling myself.
I'm telling you, 2 candidates enter, only 1 leaves, and then it repeats until there's only 1 left.
Well, I mean, think how fun C-SPAN would be if they went back to dueling and actual fistfights in Congress like it was 200 years ago.
I want another caning in the middle of the Senate. I'm just saying.
I mean, everybody's all upset. So-and-so hit somebody. Really? That all?
Oh.
Have you people even read history?
No. They're not taught history anymore. They're taught social studies. And I don't think they're being taught that anymore, to be honest.
True. Aggie not showing up tonight?
No, actually, she was at dinner.
Oh. She's not bringing us food?
Apparently not. I was kind of hurt, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did have tacos already, but I can always eat more tacos.
I mean, who can't eat more tacos? I mean, tacos are like the Chinese food of Mexican food. You eat some, and 5 minutes later you're hungry again.
I didn't say I was hungry. I just said I could eat more. On a plus note, I had 2 magazines delivered today.
What kind
of
magazines
9mm.
do I want to know?
And no, it's for my 9mm.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I had 500 rounds of 9mm delivered the other day, and I'm expecting 1,000 rounds of shotgun.
All right, and they're back
Not
again.
that I'm preparing for anything.
Welcome back to the final GOP presidential primary debate of 2023. We're going to talk about our college campuses, starting with you, Ambassador Haley. House Republicans yesterday hauled elite university presidents up to Capitol Hill to answer for the displays of anti-Semitism on college campuses. These leaders, including the president of Harvard, were asked whether calling for the genocide of the Jews would violate school policies against harassment and intimidation. All of them said it would depend on the context, including whether that speech veers into conduct.
Ain't that the truth?
How do you think these schools and the rest of society should balance the imperative of free speech against the need to prevent radical activists from harassing and intimidating others?
It was disgusting to see what happened. You know, if this had been the KKK that was doing protests on those campuses, every one of those college presidents would have been up in arms. This is just as bad. The idea that they would go and allow that kind of pro-Hamas protest or agree with the genocide of Jews and try and say that they needed context on that, there is no context to that. This is what we need to do to deal with it. First of all, we have got to get foreign money out of our universities. You've got Arab money, you've got Chinese money, you've got others. We need to go to every university and say you either take foreign money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. The second thing we need to do is Biden made a mistake not including anti-Zionism in the definition of anti-Semitism. If you don't think that Israel has a right to exist, that is anti-Semitic. We will change the definition so that every government, every school has to acknowledge the definition for what it is. The third thing is we really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that. We now know that 50% of adults 18 to 25
and it's not making me
think
anti-Semitic.
that Hamas was warranted in what they did with Israel. That's a problem. When campuses also don't go and protect when they have these rallies and you've got students that are scared, we need to go to these universities and say, if you're not going to protect these students, if you're not going to acknowledge anti-Semitism, we'll take your tax-exempt status away. That'll fix it, and that'll take care of it for good.
Staying with you, Ambassador Haley. On October 6th, the Israeli government thought it had a clear-eyed view of the threat from Hamas. In fact, according to the New York Times, it even had Hamas's attack plan and dismissed it as an aspiration. The Israelis were wrong. In our country, the FBI director told the Senate panel just yesterday that he sees, quote, blinking red lights everywhere, and that the threat level has, quote, gone to a whole nother level since October 7th. Which of the threats facing our country do you worry could blindside us?
What worries me and what keeps me up at night is what happens between now and Election Day while Joe Biden's in office. That's what worries me more than anything else. But I'll tell you that America right now is acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like, because it only takes one. And whether you're looking at open borders that are allowing people to come in, Iran knows the easiest way to get to America is through the southern border, and we're not doing anything to stop it. We've got to get the foreign infiltration out of our country, whether it's in our schools, whether it's on our social media, whether it's we need to stop all foreign lobbying that's happening to members of Congress, and we need to start securing America again. Until we do that, we are going to be at threat. We've got to look at Iran, China, and Russia want to destroy the West. We have to start acting strong again. We've got to start protecting Americans. Right now, Americans don't feel protected, and we're not doing anything to strengthen it. So Joe Biden continues to be a problem. That'll change on election.
Don't get me wrong, but I don't want you to still.
Governor DeSantis.
Well, I'm just kind of surprised that his first thing he thought was it was me. So I'm like,
would you send American troops, as
really?
President Biden has said he would do?
We will be able to deter that from happening. I think that's the important thing. We need a strategy of denial so that we're deterring Xi's ambitions.
What if it doesn't work?
It's going to work. Taiwan's an ally. We have long-standing American policy, and you know how that's done, and we will follow that. But here's the thing. Taiwan is important not just because of semiconductors. It's important because if China is able to break out of this first island chain, they're going to be able to dominate commerce in the entire Indo-Pacific. They will use that to export authoritarianism all around the world, including here in the United States. You look at some of these guys, actually some of them that are supporting Nikki on Wall Street, they grovel to China. Anytime something happens, they got to go do that. So they already exert a huge amount of authority over this country. It will get a lot worse. So deterring China's ambitions is the #1 national security task that I will do as president, and we will succeed. The 21st century needs to be an American century. We cannot let it be a Chinese century.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
I think we need to be clear I'll be clear on the same issue, if I may.
I'm coming to you next on Taiwan. You said, if you want to stop Xi from invading Taiwan, quote, let's open a branch of the NRA in Taiwan and put an AR-15 in the hands of every family and train them how to use it. That will give Xi a taste of American exceptionalism, end quote. The National Police in Taiwan announced a zero-gun policy last year. Is this a serious policy proposal? And if it isn't, why do you keep repeating it?
Well, it's part of a broader deterrence strategy. And so I think I'm going to respectfully disagree with Ron here. I think the next U.S. president needs to be crystal clear that at least for the foreseeable future, the U.S. will absolutely defend Taiwan. And it is with that clarity that we actually achieve deterrence. But I have a broader strategy than that. We need to get on side in our relationship with India, take it to the next level. India has to be able to block the Andaman Sea, which is where China gets most of its Middle Eastern oil supplies. That's critical. I also do believe the Second Amendment is a critical way of preventing foreign autocrats from being able to. It's worked in America. Why wouldn't it work in Taiwan? So it is part of a broader strategy. But I do think that we need to be specific about our deterrence strategy, or else Xi Jinping is just encroaching by the day. And the reason why we're not doing it for China, I want to be crystal clear, is because we're scared. Why are we scared? Because we depend on them for our modern way of life. Why do we depend on them for our modern way of life? It's because Nikki Haley's latest friends like Larry Fink have created commingled economies with BlackRock telling Exxon and Chevron they can't drill here, while being a shareholder of PetroChina, not applying those same constraints in China. So it is our economic dependence on China that makes us scared. If that were a Russian spy balloon, we'd have shot it down in an instant. If that were a Russian spy base in Cuba, we'd be actually going hard on them instead of turning the other way as we are with China. So it comes back down to that economic dependence. We cannot depend on them for our pharmaceuticals, our semiconductors, and people have been lied to for a long time. Our own military, the F-35 jets that we make in this country, depend on China, and it's going to take an outsider to fix that broken establishment.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Ambassador Haley, would you like to respond?
I mean, when it comes to China and Taiwan, the one way that we keep China from going into Taiwan is, one, make sure that we win in Ukraine, that we protect our friends, but also let China know that they'll be hell to pay if they go into Taiwan. They need to know that there is going to be a force that's going to go against them. And they need to know it's not just going to be the United States. That is why we need to build our partnerships with India, with South Korea, with Japan, with the Philippines, with Australia. We need to start pulling that alliance together. And the first way we do that is we need to make sure that on day one we look at the fact, if China pulled the rug out from under us tomorrow, would we be ready? Think about what happened during COVID. Everybody told you to wear a mask. They were made in China. Everybody told you to take a COVID test. They were made in China. Everybody went and, everything that happened, if you go to the drugstore, all those medicines are made in China. We have to make sure that we are not relying on China for anything related to our national security, which means let's start focusing on doing deals with our friends now.
Thank you, Ambassador. Governor Christie, I'd like you to weigh in on that. And do you think arming every family in Taiwan with an AR-15 is a plausible policy?
You know, I don't think we have constitutional authority over Taiwan to give them a Second Amendment. I think they can only do that for themselves. But look, I want to be really clear. Once again, I want to play the role of actually answering your question, which is if China went after Taiwan, you're absolutely right. I would, as president, have us go militarily and defend them. Secondly, I'm not afraid, based upon those economic relationships, to do that, because these economic relationships mean nothing. Nothing. If what's going to happen is that China is going to come and act in that region of the world however they see fit. It's not right. And I'll say this about what I heard from Nikki earlier. She said that Donald Trump was good on trade. He wasn't. And the proof that he wasn't good on trade with China is that all he did was impose tariffs, which raised the prices for every American. You want to know what has contributed to inflation in this country? Yes, it's more government spending. Yes, it's the fact that we're printing too much money. Absolutely. But it is also the increase in prices that were driven by Donald Trump's tariffs. And one last thing. You can't say he was good on trade because he didn't change one Chinese policy in the process. He failed on it.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Governor DeSantis, switching subjects here. For 15 years, Republicans have been burned by politicians' promises to repeal Obamacare. Trump repeatedly promised to replace it with, quote, something terrific, but failed to propose anything. You're now promising something better. But Florida has more uninsured people than almost any other state. Why should Americans trust you more than any other Republicans who've disappointed them on this issue?
Well, I think we have millions of Americans who do not have access to affordable health care. And it's not just getting some type of card and Medicaid, because a lot of times they don't even get access to doctors. You actually get access to care. The other thing is we have millions and millions of people who don't have access to good doctors and good hospitals. Florida did not expand Obamacare. I think the states that did that, I think, are struggling financially. So that, yes, we declined to do that, and I don't think that that was the right policy to do. But we are going to go after the cost. You're paying too much for everything. We've actually addressed this in Florida in some ways, but you need price transparency. You need to hold the pharmaceuticals accountable. You need to hold big insurance and big government accountable, and we're going to get that done. I think it's very, very important economically. I think it's very, very important for the country that we get that done.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to, this is a very personal issue to our family. I wanted to take actually a minute to recognize my wife who's here today. Badass surgeon. She did a bunch of cases with cancer survivors earlier today, flew here to be tonight. We'll be back at 7 a.m. in Columbus, Ohio tomorrow, taking care of those patients in the OR. and on the front lines of people who have actually not swallowed for years. And here's something that's awful that's happening in our healthcare system.
Not swallowed for years.
Don't pay for anything like feeding
My
tubes,
God.
doctors to be pill pushers. But for the procedures that will
I know
actually
where
make
you're going.
these patients better, we have a broken healthcare system that doesn't pay for it. My wife, Apoorva, in many cases, does not get paid for those procedures. She does them anyway because it's the right thing to do. But that does not work
tell her spinners
system-wide.
are quitters, bro.
So here's the answer. We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sick care system. We need to start having
trying for a
those
widow's
insurance
peak?
options in a competitive marketplace that cover
He's not trying.
preventive medicine, diet, exercise, lifestyle, and otherwise. And here's how we deliver that. End the antitrust exemptions for health insurance companies. That's where the competitive marketplace begins. That's crony capitalism. That's the answer.
Okay, through Operation Warp Speed, the Trump administration and private industry developed a COVID vaccine in record time. The program protected the drug companies from virtually all lawsuits over vaccine injuries. The government has a program to compensate for such harm, but critics say it is a black hole of bureaucracy. 12,000 claims filed, 10% decided, only 8 payouts so far, in a forum with no right to counsel, no hearings, no appeals. Mr. Trump says he's very proud of Warp Speed. Should he be?
Well, this question specifically on liability goes back to actually Reagan. And Reagan is a president who I admire. Many of us do. I think that reviving that spirit is in many ways going to be good for this country in so many ways. But one of the areas where he erred was this special form of lobbying to say that one kind of manufacturer, a vaccine manufacturer, cannot be sued for their product liability. So I have pledged, it is part of my legislative agenda, we will repeal that.
My
Just like
God,
we will
are you
repeal
still
every
talking?
other form of crony capitalism. People who have been harmed by those vaccines deserve accountability. They cannot be forgotten Americans. And I think one of the top lessons we learned from that COVID pandemic is that free speech in this country is most important in those alleged times of emergency. If we had been allowed to openly debate the merits of those vaccines, they would have been never mandated in the way that they were. And in general, I don't think that we should want capitalism and democracy to share the same bed anymore. It's time for a clean divorce. Let companies be companies, but I don't like the crony capitalism. This dates back a long time in both parties. And I think that we need to end the lobbying. And I personally believe that if you have been working in the government, you should not lobby that government for 10 years. If you have been a government elected official doing deals with companies, be they Boeing or be they pharmaceutical companies, you should not join the board of that company for 10 years after. The former chairman of the FDA, the leader commissioner of the FDA, ended up on the board of Pfizer. Nikki Haley did deals with Boeing, ends up on the board of Boeing. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. We need some basic principles that end the corruption in government. That's how we got the health insurance exemptions. That's how we got the pharmaceutical product liability exemptions. We end the corruption.
We need a reckoning for what this government did during COVID-19. That includes the mRNA shots. They put it out. It was experimental. People wanted it. Then the government started trying to mandate it, to say you don't have a right to put food on your table if you don't take an mRNA shot that was under emergency use. They tried to take nurses away. Now, in Florida, we blocked that. We provided protections for everybody so that they wouldn't lose their job. You also have the FDA approving an mRNA shot for 6-month-old babies. There was no data to support that. They're doing it because big pharma will make money. So I'm going to go in there, CDC, NIH, FDA. We're going to clean house. There's going to be a reckoning because right now nobody's been held accountable for any of the damage. And they're going to try to do it again. When I'm president, this will never happen to our country ever again.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. And we will be right back in just a few moments for our closing statements from our 4 candidates at the Republican primary debate.
Go away, Baitin! Anyway, glad it's almost over. The only person that's making any sense tonight is DeSantis.
Oh, of course.
I'm just ready for the caucuses and the primaries to start so that people will actually start getting a real feel for everything other than these inflated poll numbers. I don't trust polls anymore any further than I could throw them, especially because of how everything looked before the midterm elections and then what happened. I'm like, yeah, you guys are screwing up the numbers on purpose, trying to convince people that want to make changes that they can stay home because the changes are going to happen anyway. I will say, while we're on commercial break, I saw something that was kind of disturbing the other day. I'm still trying to verify it, but somebody was referencing a graph on election night in 2020 that actually shows the exact moment that all the mail-in ballots started coming in. And there's like there's not like a gradual climb that put Biden over the top. It literally looks like a shelf, like a cliff shelf going up. And apparently 100% of the mail-in votes that were counted in the overnight all went to Biden. But yeah, that's not weird. That's not weird.
You know.
And of course somebody said, gee, I wonder if that has anything to do with COVID and people wanting to mail their ballots in instead. Oh, like 100% of the mail-in? I mean, dude, I didn't know this, but apparently if you look at the day of numbers, Trump won everywhere day of.
Oh, yeah.
Like everywhere. And then mail-in ballots started coming in the overnights, and the ballot fairies said, it's Biden.
Well, my biggest thing is I just would like to see a complete audit of mail-in, all the ballots compared to the number of registered voters. I mean, I've been told that it's all public. No, it's not. It's not there. They didn't do that. No, that's the county making sure that they don't have anything shown, right? No, I want somebody to take all the ballots and do it.
I think we just need to, I mean, this is taking a page from the leftist playbook to a point. But I think we just need to make voting a federal holiday and tell everybody they have to vote in person unless they are deployed overseas.
Yeah.
Or they're disabled.
Well, that too. But then again, the left would just consider death a disability and then mail in those ballots anyway. So I don't know if that would help.
Well, somebody needs dragged on Twitter.
Oh, who needs to be drugged now?
This a-hole that just, Joanne Mason, right?
Yeah.
Well, she's dealing with pain because it's the Christmas and about the loss of her son, which, that's something I've never experienced, but I can understand the pain.
Yeah.
And somebody just posted to her, Jesus Christ, get over it. What the fuck? And it's like,
okay. Yeah. DM me that, and so I can tell.
It's in the chat live matter.
Okay,
DM.
cool. That works. So apparently something else that we missed is while on break, when they went to break earlier, I guess Chris Christie went to Megyn Kelly and started whining about how mean Vivek was being to him. I thought that was kind of funny.
I think he probably just said, can you get him to stop interrupting? This is getting ridiculous. I mean, Vivek has been a dick.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying
he's got some. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to him. He does have some interesting ideas. I just wish he wouldn't change them all the time. But he sounds like a petulant teenager most of the time.
Yeah, well.
And they all missed one of the biggest things on the healthcare stuff.
Well, they usually do.
You've got to. No, it's the accreditors, just like it is in education. I'm going to email to Shaw.
Get you all in, so we're going to give you 45 seconds for this last one. Governor Christie, we're going to start with you. Which former president would you draw inspiration from for your own presidency, and why?
Barack Obama. I would draw inspiration from Ronald Reagan. In the last year, I spent a lot of time writing a book about President Reagan that's going to be called What Would Reagan Do? That book's going to come out early in 2024. And what I learned more than anything else was that Ronald Reagan was a slave to the truth.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
Unpopular at the moment. In 1964, he stood up against
the
John
Birch Society. Well, at least we know he's writing a book, so he doesn't plan on winning.
Party to do it, but he would not put up with our party standing for lies and deceit, even if it gave him political progress. That's the kind of president that I will be, and I would draw that inspiration from the 40th president of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
Ambassador Haley?
In
Well, I have to say, too, I think George Washington, when you look at the responsibilities he had of how do you go and take on this great American experiment and make sure that the people are protected, and they always knew that government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. And then you look at Abraham Lincoln, and you look at the challenges, and you look at the division that happened in our country, and the ability to lead in spite of the loud noises and say what will bring out the best in people to get us to go forward is always something that's important, and I think we need that now more than ever.
Governor DeSantis.
Reagan, Washington, Lincoln, excellent. One of the guys I'll take inspiration from is Calvin Coolidge. People don't talk about him a lot. He's one of the few presidents that got almost everything right. He understood the proper role of the federal government under the Constitution. We need to restore the U.S. Constitution as the centerpiece of our national life. And that requires a president who understands the original understanding of the Constitution, who has a good sense of the Bill of Rights, and who knows how we've gone off track with this massive fourth branch of government, this administrative state, which is imposing its will on us and is being weaponized against us. So Silent Cal knew the proper role of the federal government. The country was in great shape when he was president of the United States, and we can learn an awful lot from Calvin Coolidge.
Over to you, Mr. Ramaswamy, to conclude our history lesson.
Sure. Well, I will say Ron picked a president who was born on July 4th. I'll pick one who died on July 4th. It's Thomas Jefferson. He was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, and you all are sitting on a swivel chair today. He invented the swivel chair while he was at it, while writing that Declaration of Independence. That's that founding spirit that we miss, that we're the pioneers, we're the explorers, the guy who sent him out on the Lewis and Clark expeditions. And I think a lot about what would Thomas Jefferson say to today's Republican Party. And I think one thing he'd remind us of, we haven't talked about it as much tonight, but I think it is one of the interesting ideological discussions we're having in our party is freedom of speech. You get to express your mind freely no matter how heinous the opinion. Thomas Jefferson understood that.
All right.
He's an inspiration for me.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. And believe it or not, it's time for closing statements. Governor Christie, would you like to begin?
Sure, thank you. I want you all to kind of picture in your minds Election Day. You'll all be heading to the polls to vote. And that's something that Donald Trump will not be able to do because he will be convicted of felonies before then, and his right to vote will be taken away. You know, look, here's the bottom line. You can do about it all you like and continue to deny reality. But if we deny reality as a party, we're going to have 4 more years of Joe Biden. When my colleagues here raised their hands and said they would support him even if he was a convicted felon, the bigger problem with it is they were confirming the lies he's told to the American people. If you're too timid to take on Trump, believe me, others will see that timidity. Xi, Putin, and the Ayatollah, the border crossers on the southern border, and the criminals in our streets. They'll sense that timidity, and they'll take advantage of that failure of leadership. We need to get back to an old American idea that every person is responsible for their own conduct, even a president. I'll be the kind of president who has the humility that knows that you work for the people. It's not the other way around.
You wouldn't
I will earn your trust.
If it was a new
I want to earn your vote.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Mr. Ramaswamy?
I'll use this to just address a topic we didn't talk about tonight, but I think is one of the most important topics that needs to be discussed. That is this climate change agenda that is shackling this country like a set of handcuffs. I said it at the first debate, and I stand by it. The climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That's what we have to see. 98% reduction in the climate disaster-related deaths in the last century. 8 times as many people are going to die of cold temperatures this year than warm ones. Yet against that backdrop, there's an issue coming up in Iowa. It's core to Iowa farmers. I met Kim Junker, Kathy Stockdale, and other farmers who are about to have a carbon capture pipeline built across their land using eminent domain to do it. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. And if you thought COVID was bad, what's coming with this climate agenda is far worse. We should not be bending the knee to this new religion. That is what it is. It is a substitute for a modern religion. We are flogging ourselves and losing our modern way of life, bowing to this new god of climate, and that will end on my watch.
Thank you,
it's the most critical issue that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our country is in chaos. We see it on the southern border. We see it on our streets in our cities. We see it on college campuses. We feel it with our economy, with inflation and with debt. And we feel it around the world with wars in Europe and within the Middle East. We have to stop the chaos, but you can't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. And that's what Donald Trump gives us. My approach is different. No drama, no vendettas, no whining. I envision an America where we're protected from illegal immigration and Chinese infiltration. I envision an America where we unleash our economy and we reject socialism. But more importantly, I envision an America where we rediscover our national purpose and our pride.
Thank you.
I crushed Joe Biden in the polls. And if you give me this chance, we will crush him in November and take our country back.
Governor.
Go to NikkiHaley.com.
Thank you, Ambassador Haley. Governor DeSantis.
We are in jeopardy of being the first generation of Americans to leave to our kids and grandkids an America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. I refuse to sit idly by and let that happen. But we got to have people that are going to be willing to fight the people that are doing this to us. You can't be these establishment Republicans that just cave at the first sign of opposition. I'll fight for you. We also need to win again as a party. Yes, win the election, which we've struggled to do, but also win on these big issues. And nobody has defeated these people more than what I have done in the state of Florida on issue after issue. We have won, and we have won big, and that's what we'll do for you. We also need leadership. Leadership is not about doing what's easy. It's about being willing to set out that vision, knowing they're going to shoot arrows at you. They're going to come at you. I will fight the good fight. I will keep the faith, and I will finish the race. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, all of you.
You're watching Oklahoma's News 4 at 9 p.m.
College experience is going to suffer for this.
New developments. Okay. Nobody wants to hear News Channel 4. Anyway. I got almost nothing from this one. I'm just saying. I kept waiting for Christy to stroke out on the stage.
Other than Vivek is still trying to be the Trump of Gen X.
Dude, no, he's too young. he's too young.
Gen Z. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I used the wrong alphabet.
Don't lump him in with me, you boomer bastard.
Hey, I'm just going to say that I'm at that point that I could be either a boomer or a Gen X.
You just turned how old?
Me?
Yeah.
62.
I guess you are kind of on the cusp there.
I'm on the cusp because it's like I missed out on all the boomer shit.
I think I confused you with Mike for a second. I honestly thought you had.
Yeah, Mike is 69.
I was going to say, I know one of you is birthday.
Good number.
Best number. I actually made my dad blush the year that he turned 69 for his birthday. I was like, hey, look, Dad, it's your favorite number. He's like, you're an asshole.
That's kind of funny.
Anyway, yeah, I got almost nothing out of this other than, kind of secretly hoping Christy was going to stroke out on the stage. But, that's kind of mean to say. Just saying. I do like the fact that whoever was controlling the camera kept panning over and catching him leaning over the podium when he didn't think anybody was watching. Not that I wouldn't have been doing the same thing, to be honest, because I'm old and fat and my back hurts, but still, it's part of the reason why I don't run for office. Just saying.
See,
that and I can only
if I'd have been there,
wobble for office.
If I'd have been there, they'd all looked at me and said, "So what do you think?" I think I need another alcohol.
I was dying though when Stacy's like, if he says Coolidge, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Then he rattles.
That was good.
Rattles off the three main ones, of course. And he's like, but if I'm going to take inspiration from anybody, it would be Calvin Coolidge. You're like, oh crap. He's not wrong though. I mean, honestly.
No, he's not.
Yeah, and one of the things that drives me crazy, and I was going to talk about this when it happened earlier, I think it was either end of last week or beginning of this week. I think it was end of last week, but I was still feeling like crap. One of the things that drives me crazy is hearing Republicans start talking about how we need presidential candidates that can win the popular vote. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But we don't need that.
Shut the fuck up. Trying to put any weight on the popular vote is like trying to say that the team that has the most hits in the World Series should actually win the game. Because it's not the same fucking thing. The popular vote in a general election doesn't count for shit. That's one of the reasons why I'm really pissed off about that part of the 17th Amendment. Because the only part of the Congress that was ever supposed to be elected by the popular vote was the popular vote within a state, and that was for the House. The Senate was supposed to be appointed by the members of the state House, so that the state had a voice in Congress as much as the people did. The first step to putting us in the mess that we're in right now was the 17th fucking Amendment. The first step.
It was supposed to be by the governor, and the reason why it was every 6 years is because you would have governor change outs every 6 years.
Yeah. I think in Oklahoma, honestly it used to be one of those things where the legislature would vote on it, and then the governor would either go with those choices or pick his own, but hell, it was so long ago, I don't even remember. Because, I barely was, not even sure I was alive then. Was Oklahoma even a state when they passed the 17th Amendment? I don't even remember. I'd have to look it up. I think we were.
If they have another debate, say in January, I think DeSantis should show up wearing boots that have like 12-inch heels, carrying a bottle of alcohol, smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, smoking something. Not sure about the cigarette. But yeah, the whole thing was just...
He fucking said Calvin Coolidge, guys.
I know, we heard him.
We know.
I know!
Stacy.
I'm in love!
Right?
I'm in love!
We're live, all right?
Yeah, Stacy.
I know.
I don't know if the...
He's got to be my president! What are you looking for, buddy? You want to plug the lights in? They're on the tray so that he doesn't eat it. What, do you turn them on every evening or just when I'm here? Can you go downstairs and see if you can find my wreath box? Thank you. I made you frittata.
And a day in the life at Stacey's house. Live on KLR Radio.
Yeah. Hey, we're turning on the Christmas lights. Shh.
Turning on the Christmas lights and talking about frittatas.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. I got cookies to make.
Nice. All right.
Nice.
Go have fun making your cookies.
I will. Talk to you later.
Later, Stacy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I was gonna try to do some post game on this one, but I got nothing.
I got nothing either. Bring the Amish in.
He's eating. He doesn't want to join us tonight. He's eating.
Fine. I was gonna give him a hard time because I'm going into his wheel wagon tomorrow in his wheelbase.
What?
I'm making Amish bread.
Amish bread. That kind of sounds dirty. Do I even want to know?
Amish friendship bread. So take that with what it is.
Oh.
That was terrible. I mean, nobody did anything new, right?
No, I mean, it was all just the same old crap. Amish in the chat. I want to. The spirit is willing. The body, however, is spongy and bruised. I'm getting punch drunk. Of course, then again, I have been before.
He was trying to get that. He was trying to fix that one girl that says conservatives can't like Star Trek. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, actually, I was just fact-checked. Apparently, Oklahoma was a state for 5 years when the 17th Amendment got passed, so we probably did have a hand in that bullshit, unfortunately. I wasn't alive, though, so I can take solace in the fact that if I had
It's not my fault.
If I had been alive, my vote would have been no. The popular vote is the devil. Just saying. But yeah, I mean, my one parting thought, taking all that away, is, of course, Nikki Haley, end of last week, beginning of this week, was talking about how we need presidents in the Republican, presidential candidates in the Republican Party that can win the popular vote, and it's bullshit. Stop talking about the popular vote. I mean, look, I don't necessarily agree with exactly how the Electoral College is weighted, because I really don't like it that liberal hellholes get more say than I do. And I also don't like the fact that that presidential candidates can basically campaign in like 5 states and manage to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
I have said for years that we need a different version of the Electoral College. Use the Senate numbers. Each state gets 2 votes. You got a campaign.
There you go.
You got a campaign in every state. 51-49 wins it. It's not hard.
They do get the Senate, but they also get the popular based on the House of Representatives.
Yeah, but that just annoys me.
Yes, I know. It annoys the shit out of me too, because it's like they don't bother going. Why? They only have to campaign where? They do Iowa and New Hampshire because they're the first.
Well, until Biden. Now Biden's trying to make South Dakota was it South Carolina or South Dakota? I know he did some shenanigans with the Democratic primaries and caucuses this year.
Yeah. But again, I think they need to. They really want to do it. All I think is they ought to change tax date.
Wait, so you're going to have to elaborate. What do you mean by change the tax date?
Well, instead of April 15th, taxes are due on the first Monday of the November, right before the voting day.
So everybody's more pissed off. I kind of see where you're going with that. These are things that I've said before, and I'm going to keep saying them. I honestly think we need to get back to the point where Congress actually has to earn their pay, for one. These didn't used to be paid positions. I think we kind of need to get back to that. I think they deserve a per diem when working. And then at the end of the year, we get to do a popular up or down vote as to whether or not our particular congressional group in our individual states deserve the rest of their paychecks or not.
Yeah. Well, I think also that if they're not doing their job, they don't get paid at all.
Yeah, I mean, the problem...
They're not passing... There's no legislation being passed.
Well,
they're not working with each other.
Well, so my problem...
How many times has the president done executive order in the last 20 years to get shit done?
Well, so my problem with all of that, though, is I actually kind of prefer it when they're not doing anything to a point, because most of the time when they are doing something, it's not necessarily anything that I agree with. So I don't necessarily mind the gridlock as much, because I think our...
I don't mind gridlock, right? It's just like with Obamacare, right? How many of the Republicans in 2012, right, 2010, 2012, whenever it was, put us in office and we'll repeal Obamacare? So they got put in office, but they never did anything about Obamacare.
Well, that's, again, something else that pisses me off.
Obama, and I understand Obama would have vetoed it. I understand that.
Yeah, no,
but you don't even... Well, you're not trying.
Well, yeah, my whole issue with that is, one, they should have tried to put it up anyway. They had the majorities to at least put it in front of his face and prove to the folks that they were trying to do it. But the other thing is, so the whole time they were running, right, it's vote for us and we'll repeal it, vote for us and we'll repeal it, vote for us and we'll repeal it. Then they get elected and it's, well, we'll repeal and we'll replace it with something better. Now, fuck you. That's not what you said. You said you were going to repeal it. Guys, look, I love everybody that listens to these programs, even the people that disagree with me. But let me just break this down for you as best as I can. Insurance, whether it's medical insurance, car insurance, house insurance, it's all collectivism. What is another word for collectivism? So another one starts with a C, ends with an ism.
Wait a minute. I got it. Communication.
No, that's not it. Communism. We have allowed communism to infiltrate this country on multiple levels. And now we've got communists running the colleges. We've got communists running the unions. We've got communists running for Congress. Hell, Bernie Sanders is a socialist, which is basically just a communist that doesn't fucking know he's a communist. Or at least trying to hide the fact that he's a communist. Because despite what the government and the history books tell you, there's like a hair's breadth difference between socialism and communism. There's like 2 or 3 words different in that entire definition between the two. I know, because I had helped my son write a paper on it when he was a senior in high school. So I got a whole refresher course yet again. But yeah, so just, and then probably we'll wrap up here pretty quick. Something else that drives me crazy. I was talking to a friend of mine that works at a pharmacy the other day, and there was a 66-year-old lady there trying to get some medication that over the counter, well, even though it was a prescription, the direct from the pharmacy cost would have been $5. But as soon as she pulled out an insurance card, he couldn't tell her that. She had to pay a $15 copay. The insurance company then did a $10 clawback on the excess and got to keep it. The pharmacist made the original $5. She paid $15. The insurance company made $10. Because by law, as soon as you present an insurance card, they're not allowed to tell you what the no coverage price of the prescription would be. And 9 times out of 10, unless it's something major, it's going to be cheaper than even your fucking copay. Because it's been around since the dawn of time. Now, they get you coming and going on some stuff, I'm not going to lie. But on a lot of stuff, you would save money if you didn't show them that you have an insurance card. But that's part of the reason why they haven't put in the computers now. Because it doesn't matter anymore. As soon as they pull you up in the system, oh, you have insurance? Yeah, $15 copay. You lose 15, pharmacy makes 5, insurance company gets the rest. And you're still paying premiums to them every fucking month on top of that. Somehow in this country, we got Robin Hood all kinds of backwards and fucked up. I'm just saying.
Well, remember, Obamacare was not written for the American public. It was written for the insurance companies.
Exactly. And, well, I mean, we knew there was a problem when Nancy Pelosi was all, we have to pass the bill before we can tell you what's in it. Excuse me? Mm-hmm. you said what now? And then she starts to walk it back. Like, that's not what I said. Dude, we have you on fucking C-SPAN, sitting in the middle of Congress. We have to pass the law, and then we can find out what's in it. And then you want to walk it back like you didn't say that shit. Well, it was taken out of context. What fucking context? Do you need context for the sentence? We have to pass it to find out what's in it. Is there any other context required other than we're going to bend you over this table and we're going to fuck you from behind as hard as we can? We're not even going to offer you a courtesy reach-out or any fucking no. Because that's pretty much what they did. These people went from, we're going to put it up online so you can read through it before we ever even vote on it, for however long it takes before you guys know what it is, to making it a 2,000 some odd page monstrosity that they wanted passed in 5 minutes. And we're still treating these people like they're fucking American aristocracy. That's the other thing that drives me crazy. During the debate, I'm in a Twitter fight with a mutual follower because I called somebody out for being pissed off that the fucking fucking swimmer chick was bitching out the congressperson who called her a fucking transphobe. And she's like, well, if I'm
the congressperson, yeah.
If I'm a transphobe, you're a misogynist. And then when she says that, the Congress critter tries to get her censured. And this person is like, well, you shouldn't be able to do that to Congress. So I just basically said, what are you high? These people are supposed to work for us, not the other way around. And then somebody that I know jumped into it, started coming at me. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, think about it. We have now reached the point where we're not allowed to criticize our government.
Well,
right?
Yeah. Well,
they were trying to strike Riley's words from the record, and how dare she speak about like that? How dare we call Joe Biden a tottering old fool who's wearing a silver alert bracelet?
Pretty sure it's a life alert, but I don't even know if he'd know how to press the button.
I mean, that's what we're getting to. That's what people are getting to.
All right, my man. Well, I got to be up by like 4 to start this madness over again for tomorrow. So where can folks find you?
Oh, you can find me on the Zitter Twitter.
Zitter's full.
We're going to call it Zitter, maybe Twitter. I don't know. It's, the only social media site to where you can upset people by misspelling the word. You can find me at Nuke MM1 Retired. And you can find me here on Toxic Masculinity at the end of the month. This month, we'll be doing the polls for the entire year.
Oh wow! I forgot about that.
Right? Yeah, we got the whole year to go through. In fact, I had a reminder reading through Zitter earlier today. Do you realize it has only been since January since we had the train cop?
Oh, God, why does that feel like it was 20 years ago?
Right? I'm not looking forward to going through that and going, wow, I forgot about that. So,
we need to make you an official staff T-shirt. Andrew, poll inspector.
I'm a poller.
We just need to make sure whoever spells it doesn't spell it wrong. Just saying.
Yeah, well, And later this month, I'll be on the Christmas broadcast with the KRN players.
Oh, yeah, we should probably talk about that. Because, December 22nd, 9 p.m.
Yep.
Miracle on 34th Street, the third annual Blowtorch production for the Christmas special. That's the one we've chosen this year.
There's going to be singing, dancing.
Shenanigans. Shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Had to be done.
Hey, farmer.
All right, folks.
I want whoever's being the psychiatrist to just say, so how do you feel about that? Meow.
Oh, yeah, I need to read through the script because I'm going to have to see how many times I can figure out ways to work stuff like that in just for the fun of it.
Well, I think me and you need to get together because I think we're playing off of each other in it too.
Oh, yeah. I actually planned on probably sitting down and starting to go over it on Sunday a little bit and figure out where I am, so. All right, folks, we are going to get out of here. It's been a long day for me.
All righty, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out for the last debate of 2023. Hopefully some of this shit starts shaking loose after the caucuses start. And to play off what Andrews just said, if you can't be good, then be good at it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, just like duct tape.
You can't duck it, or you can't fix it, duck it. You can't duck it, plug it.